Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this. This is, I believe it's the fifth webinar of our wealth build. Do I have it wrong, Bob? It's
wealth building.
Wealth building.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters a great deal, though.
Yeah, I like the builders because that's the people.
Yeah.
Wealth builders, wealth building mastermind plus. And tonight's webinar, I've titled tonight's webinar, Money in You. I think this is going to be a really powerful webinar. There's a lot of material here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're basically following along from T. Harv Ecker's book about money. So it's going to be pretty powerful. So sit back, grab some popcorn. If you can, put the kids away, feed the dog, and get ready to enjoy and dig deep into your thought processes about money for the next 40 minutes or so. Bob, what would you like to add?
I think it's ready to rock and roll. Get right into it, Len.
Rock and roll. Okay, we're going to rock and roll. We're going to go to the screen share. And here we go. The screen is up. We are sharing. And I hope you can see my screen. And we're going to bring up the PowerPoint presentation. And as I've told you before, we entitled the program Money and You. Let's just start right into it. What are some of the fundamental things that distinguish rich people and poor people? Well, one of the first things is rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. And we've talked about this before in several different webinars and other areas. And I've said this, and a little bit of what I'm going to do tonight is some tough love. If you can't take 100% responsibility for your life, you will not win this game. 99% isn't good enough. You've got to be 100% responsible. And look, we all fall into the trap sometimes of wanting to push blame outside of ourselves. Oh, my kids had to have new clothes. The car was falling apart. I had to go buy a new car. There's always things that come up. But the reality is, if we're not responsible for ourselves, then we'll never get ourselves into a financially stable position. Look, who was holding the credit card every time the cash register rang up a charge? Was it your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, or was it you? So remember the affirmations we do every day. I create my life. I create the exact amount of my financial success. And while for many of us that may seem hard at times, it is the attitude you have to adopt if you're going to be successful financially and build wealth for yourself. Point number 2. Bob, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, I just think take responsibility is the way to go, Len.
Got to do it. Got to do it. All right. Point number 2. Rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game to not lose. Now, there's a huge difference in the thought process between winning and not losing. What does that really mean? The big goal of poor people is, oh God, I hope I have enough money to pay the bills next week, and hey, maybe I even might be able to pay them on time this month. Well, that attitude is not going to create wealth. Rich people want to be rich. Middle-class people want to be comfortable. There's a big difference between being comfortable and being rich. If you plan to be comfortable, you're not going to be rich. But if you plan to be rich, you'll probably be very comfortable. So this is a game that you have to play full out if you want to win it. And by the way, many of these comments come directly from T. Harv Ecker's book. I'm quoting him. And much of the other material that I use tonight is coming from Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. It's coming from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill's book. So I'm not making this stuff up. This is coming from a lot of very credible sources. I'm just compiling it together and bringing you the message. Bob?
I believe you, Len. Let's move on.
You know, we have a unique situation tonight in that Bob and I are sitting next to each other instead of 70 miles apart on 2 different computers. All right, moving on to the next principle, principle number 3. Come on. Rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people just want to be rich. They dream about it. They think about it. They'd like to be rich, but they haven't made the commitment. They haven't made the decision. They haven't decided to move forward. According to Art Williams, Art Williams was the founder of, you know what? I forget the name of the insurance company, but it's one of the biggest network marketing insurance companies. And you might know the insurance company. Art Williams.
It was Primerica.
Primerica, okay. According to Art Williams, the number one problem that keeps people in the United States today from winning is lack of belief in themselves. And we talked about that. We even talked about that in a webinar a couple of weeks ago and in the very beginning. So we've talked about it more than once. One of the fundamental issues is having that rock solid belief in yourself that you really can achieve anything that you set out to do. And in fact, it's the belief that you are capable of doing anything that you want to do. And if that belief isn't there, if it isn't rock solid, then you're in a struggle. So Napoleon Hill said the same thing in slightly different words. He said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. No, we've said that many times. We've heard it many times. We have learned that the brain responds to previous experiences and beliefs about what it expects to have happen. And the reason we point that out is much of what we believe came from our childhood. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But Hill also tells us that somewhere in our makeup, there lies sleeping the seed of achievement, which if aroused and put into action, will carry us to great heights. You have it inside you to be, do, and have anything you want. You just have to dig in and find it. Can you do that? Is this making sense? Do you believe me? Let's move on. Point number 4. What's holding you back? Let's talk about it. The number one reason people don't get what they want is they don't know what they want. That comes directly from Jack Canfield, the Success Principles. Have you worked on your vision the way that we have suggested that you work on it? Did you take the vision workshop that I gave you a couple weeks ago seriously and sit down with your vision worksheet and decide what you want for your life 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now? Or are you sitting there wishing on a star, unsure of yourself, and sending confusing mixed messages to the universe? That's really the problem a lot of people have. They don't get what they want because they don't know what it is. They don't define what they want, and they confuse the universe. The universe will give you the thoughts that, the results of your dominant thoughts. It always will. Law of attraction works. Like I told you in a webinar a few weeks ago, the law of attraction is like the law of gravity. It never quits working. If you're standing on the ground, the law of gravity is working for you. If you fall off the Empire State Building, it's working against you. Well, the law of attraction is the same way. If you're focused on what you want and the things you want are positive and they're going to benefit your life, that's what the law of attraction is going to bring you. But if you're sending mixed, confusing messages to the universe, if it's unclear what you want, if you're not sure yourself, if you haven't created that vision for yourself, then you're going to get mixed messages. You're not going to get the kind of things that are going to make you truly wealthy and truly happy. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe you're truly happy sitting in front of the television with a cold beer every night, just wishing you were rich. Could be. Don't know. Now, frequently, we've talked about this before too. Frequently, our early childhood programming leaves negative money thoughts that impact our ability to pursue our dreams. And I'll tell you about me. I grew up in the classic negative money environment. My mother didn't have any. She blamed my father. My father didn't make much. He blamed my mother, and the two of them just fought with each other about lack of money. And the sayings that I heard all the time growing up were, well, money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think we're made of? You think we're made of money? My grandmother had a particularly negative attitude about the people down the street that actually had some money. She always assumed that they must have done something shady to accumulate as much money as they had. She didn't respect them. So I grew up and you did too, Bob, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
No, it was just tough times back then. Back in those days, back in those days, there was a lot of hardships. I know my family, we had ten children, so there wasn't a lot to go around. So
Yeah. Well, and I was reading even this morning in Wayne Dyer, as many of you know, I've been reading more of Wayne Dyer recently. Really incredible book. The I Can See Clearly Now, and Wayne had very similar, very negative programming from his early age. Like many of us, he was raised during the depression. His parents came from the depression. They didn't have much money. His biological mother and father were divorced around the time he was born, uh, leaving his mother as a single woman to raise him and his two brothers. And he was in and out of foster care, and he grew up in a very negative money environment. So many of us have, and we got to overcome that. And that's what we've been working on for the last 47 days.
47 days today.
47
That's right.
days working on overcoming our negative programming and our background and our thoughts about money. And these negative money files can be overwritten, and that's what we've been talking about. That's the whole purpose of this 90-day workshop, is to overwrite some of those files from our childhood in order to attain wealth. You must absolutely believe that it's possible and that it's possible for you. And without that belief, you won't get there. Rich people think big, poor people think small. Once again, Napoleon Hill tells us that man can create anything he can imagine. That being the case, you have a choice. You can either think big or you can think small. Which one will you choose? Your universe supplied creativity was suppressed dramatically and forcefully as you were trained to be a factory worker in a non-functioning education system designed to do exactly what it did: produce factory workers that did what they were told. Are you one of them? And see, that's part of the problem many of us have gone through. I personally believe, as does Napoleon Hill, as does Jack Canfield and many other people, that the education system that we have in place today is fundamentally broke. It was developed during the Industrial Revolution. It was designed to create little robots that did what they told, all dressed the same, and marched in a little straight line, and worked on an assembly line for 40 years and got a pension. That model's broke. It doesn't work anymore, and it certainly doesn't produce millionaires. Well, the millionaires are the guys that own the factory. They weren't the workers. So, are you one of them? Or have you broken out of the mold? And are you thinking creatively? And are you designing your own future for yourself? Are you thinking big? Rich people focus on opportunities. Poor people focus on obstacles. Look, it's really very simple. Let me give you a challenge. Let's go up to San Francisco, just me and you. Hold my hand. We're standing next to San Francisco Bay, and there's a sailboat for rent. And I say, let's go sailing. Now, what do you see? Do you see a fun day of sailing on San Francisco Bay? Or do you see the wind and the waves? San Francisco Bay, in case you don't know, it is known as one of the windiest places on earth. It's one of the most challenging places in the world to learn how to sail. It can be pretty rough out there. Do you see the obstacles? Do you see the wind? Do you see the waves? Or do you see the sun and the sails and the boat? Is your glass half empty or half full? What's your outlook on life? Do you habitually think about what if the worst happens? Or do you think of what if the best happens? Are your decisions fear-based? Or are they based on positive outlooks and beliefs? Let's go back to the opening sentence of this slide. Rich people focus on opportunity. Poor people focus on obstacles. It's often been said that every opportunity has an obstacle and every obstacle has an opportunity. When presented with an opportunity, rich people see the opportunity. Poor people see the risk and fear loss. So, where do you focus your energy? Do you see the opportunity in every obstacle, or do you see the obstacle in every opportunity? And that viewpoint will make a huge difference in how you approach life and what kind of success you're able to have for yourself. So this is a really big one. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent rich and successful people. Just think about that for a minute. Reflect back for a moment to what I told you about my grandmother, who told me that the people down the street that had money probably did something a little shady to get it. That was a dominant belief back in those days. It was a dominant belief that rich people weren't to be trusted, that they were taking from other people. Is it true? What do you think? It's it's often been said that success leaves clues. So let me ask you a question. Do you really want to build a nest egg for yourself? Do you want to build wealth for yourself? Do you want to build financial comfort and security for yourself? And if you do, that means you want to be rich. If you don't admire other rich and successful people, why would you want to become one? You'll never become one. Your brain isn't going to let you become something that you don't admire, that you don't respect. So it's pretty important. So the challenge is to find success and get around successful people. And for many, that is hard. Once again, for the same reason, because we've been told that rich people aren't necessarily the world's nicest people. Well, you know, if you ever hung around any rich people, you're going to find out real quick that that's about as far from the truth as we can get. Rich people are amazingly wonderful people. Very, very few rich people are not nice people. They're very nice. They're wonderful people. They're very successful because they're servant leaders. They're successful because they want to help. They're successful because they want to give. And if you want to be successful, one of the best things that you can do is find some rich people and follow them. So once again, going back to our early childhood, maybe some parents, maybe your parents, maybe some relatives or other people badmouth rich and successful people. You've got to put that behind you. And you have to get over any feeling that rich people are greedy people. For example, and we talked about this one time before. Let me let me give you an example of the rich man up the hill in the big house. He's got this really big house, probably more bedrooms than he needs, more bathrooms than he can use, and he's got a really big boat and a really big car, several really big and expensive cars, and he's got his own private airplane and his own private yacht, and he travels first class wherever he goes if he's not taking his airplane. And you might say to yourself, that's wasteful. So let's take away all his toys. Let's sink his boat, take away his airplane, take away his big house, his new RV, whatever he's got. Let's take it all away from him. How many people did I just put out of work? Because you see, it takes a lot of people to build those toys. And if somebody doesn't invest the money in the toys, then the people that build those toys don't have a job. The factories go out of business. And those people are standing in a food line. Look, there is nothing good about being poor. There is no good that comes out of not having money to take care of yourself, to take care of your family, to buy some toys, and to help other people, to contribute to your favorite charities. One of the reasons that I personally want to generate more and more income for myself is so that I can help other less fortunate people. I'm involved in the World Food Program. I contribute to it regularly. I'm involved in a program that's building wells to put clean drinking water in villages in Africa and other places. I have an orphan baby elephant in Kenya that I've adopted. I just adopted a mountain gorilla. And and I'm involved in Project Aware, which is working to clean up the oceans. And these are just a few of the things that I'm involved in. And some of the reasons that I want money in my life is so that I can contribute more to those things. You might not realize it, but some of the biggest philanthropists on earth are also the wealthiest people on earth. Bill Gates, for example, who has not only committed to giving away 50% of his wealth before he dies, yes, 50%, but has formed a club and has a whole lot of other people signed into the club that have committed to doing the same thing, wealthy people. They're helping, and they're giving back. So what I'm trying to say to you is that for the most part, rich people are good people. They're giving people. They're caring people. And one of the best things that you can do is find somebody who's wealthy that you appreciate, do what they do, and see if maybe you don't get some of what they got in the end. What do you think, Bob?
I think so, Lynn. I think we should just move on, plow right on through.
I am plowing. So, rich people associated with positive, successful people. Poor people associated with negative or unsuccessful people. So the question I have for you is, who do you primarily hang out with? Do you go to the bar after work? The bowling alley on Friday night? Now look, I might make somebody mad at me, but it's okay. It's often been said that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time around. Here's what you need to do. You need to drop out of the Ain't It Awful Club and hang around positive, supportive people. So my challenge to you is to look at the people that you're spending the most time with. Who are you hanging out with? And ask yourself, are they contributing to the life that you want to live? Are they helping you build your vision of your future? Or are they ridiculing you? Are they laughing at you? Are they telling you that that's a scheme, that's a scam, that's a pyramid scheme, you're going to go to jail, that's illegal, blah, blah, blah? Are they telling you, you're never going to do that? Just have another beer, Charlie. Let's go have another beer. Forget that nonsense. Forget that work at home crap. You're not going to do any good with that. You know, if you're hanging around those kinds of people, well, that's what you're going to get. It's your choice. Like I said, slide number 1, you have to be 100% responsible for yourself. What do you want out of your life? Rich people are willing to promote themselves and their values. Poor people think negatively about selling and promotion. Another one of T. Harv Eker's points. It's really quite simple. If we don't promote ourselves, who else will? What are you worth? And it all goes back to that early childhood programming and your values. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that the product or service that you represent helps people? And if it does, then why aren't you sharing it? Why aren't you helping more people? So really important to be willing to promote yourself. And I'm going to come back, actually I'm going to come back to Wayne Dyer again. When he wrote his first book, Bob, what's the name of his first book? The Erroneous Zones. Yeah, The Erroneous Zones. When he wrote his first book, Your Erroneous Zones, he found a publisher to publish it, and it took a lot of work for him to get anyone to publish it. And they printed 6,000 copies. And then they told him that the book was going to die on the vine. There would never be more than 6,000 copies. They weren't going to print any more copies. They didn't have any money for promotion. They didn't have any money for advertising, etc. So Wayne took the matter in his own hands, and he started a world tour promoting his book. It wasn't many months later when his book had sold 1 million copies. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for a year, and he was a millionaire. So it's really quite simple. If you don't promote yourself, who else will? You got to believe in yourself. It comes back to that belief. Rich people are bigger than their problem. Poor people are smaller. Do you know that Donald Trump has been broke? You know, he's gone from being a billionaire to being broke to being a billionaire again. There's a story about Donald Trump that at one point he was broke, bankrupt, and he was walking down the street and he walked past a bum, a homeless person, and he made the comment that that homeless person was $600,000 richer than he was, than Donald Trump was, because Donald Trump at that point was $600,000 in debt. Within a couple or 3 years, he was a billionaire again. Robert Kiyosaki's, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been in bankruptcy. Many of us know Ray Higdon was in bankruptcy, personal foreclosure, several years, not too many years ago. I think it's about 7 years ago now. So it's not a shame. But people that intrinsically have the kind of attitude it takes to build wealth for themselves simply don't let these problems stop them. They're bigger than their problem. They grow out of the problem. They don't give up. They keep fighting. They keep going. Let's keep going. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers. We spent a whole webinar, was it just last week? Last week on the core skills of receiving. And for those of you who were on the webinar, I'm just going to review real quickly. And for those of you who weren't, I'm going to encourage you to go back to that webinar and take a look at it. The first step, the first core skill of receiving is to love yourself. Remember, if you don't love yourself, then you're not going to take care of yourself. If you don't love yourself, then you're not going to do the things for yourself that you need to do in order to grow into the person that you would like to become. So, and we talked a lot about some things you can do to learn to love yourself. It's very hard for many people. Many people think it's narcissistic. It's not. It's not. You have to care about yourself. We talked about our anchor behavior. The anchor behavior being a small inconspicuous move that we can use to move ourselves into a good feeling space when we're not feeling so good, or to reward ourselves when we do something or see something that's good. We talked about going back into our life and finding a peak experience, a moment in time when we felt really good, and to anchor that with a small inconspicuous movement, and then to practice it 25 times a day for the next 30 days, to anchor the anchor behavior, if you like, to make it part of our being, part of our normal everyday routine. And we know of one woman who claims that her anchor behavior was putting a little waft of hair behind her ear, and she claims that that was directly responsible for her becoming a millionaire. Well, here's the deal. If you learn about this anchor behavior, and again, if you didn't watch the webinar, word on it last week, go back and watch it. Again, I implore you, I beg you to do it, because there's a lot of great material there, and practice that anchor behavior and make it part of your life, because you can use it to bring yourself, anytime you aren't feeling good, you can use your anchor behavior to bring yourself into a good feeling state, into a productive state. We also talked about finding that quiet space, whether it be meditation or Tai Chi, deep breathing, whatever it is that works for you, where you can clear the clutter out of your mind and let the universe in. And we acknowledge that that's very hard for many people, but it's one of the things that will help you grow and help you get in touch with your higher self and understand how you can better serve and therefore be better served. We talked about intending our day, starting early in the morning, and intending what we want to do with our day, and then looking at how we want to feel and understanding whether or not our feelings, our intended feelings, are in fact in line with our intended actions. So if we're in business and we say, I intend to feel productive today, but our list of things we intend to do today is clean the garage, well, maybe that's not going to be so productive for our business. Maybe we need to rethink the things we're intending to do. And finally, we talked about closing your day. Who are you grateful for today? and giving yourself credit for the things that you accomplished that day, and revisiting your vision once again of what your life is like 3 to 5 years from now, and going to sleep with that vision. You know, what's it? This is Christmas time. What are the kids? They go to sleep with the visions of what's dancing in their brains. Sugar plum fairies dancing in your brain. Yeah, you're going to bed with visions of your new life, of where you're going, dancing in your brain, so that your subconscious mind can work on it while the rest of you sleeps. And I'm going to come back. This is Len talking to you personally now, and talking to you from my heart. And by the way, as I told you in last week's webinar on the core skills of receiving, much of that material comes from Larry Hochman and other sources, but Larry's been the one that I've listened to quite a bit. But this is Len talking to you personally now from the heart. If you don't do this, you won't get where you want to go. And I think Bob sitting next to me, I'm going to put words in his mouth, or he can talk for himself, he would echo that thought. This is critical to building the belief in yourself that you can achieve anything that you want to achieve. Each one of these skills is a critical component. And if you leave one of them out, you won't get where you want to go. Bob, you want any blanks to fill in there?
I think it pretty much says it all, and it's really so true, Len. You really do have to learn how to receive things. If you don't know how to receive things, it's just you won't believe that you can accept it. That's what it is. You're just not going to believe it. You don't think that you're going to be worth it. You're not going to be worthy. So it all ties in together. The whole thing about the vision, about surrounding yourself with the right people, all of them, every one of these components, they kind of fit together like a puzzle. You kind of need all of these little components to fit in. So it's so important.
You do. Right. Yeah, you need every bit of this.
Right, and that's the reason why you want to hang around with people who feel that same way, because you might have 8 or 9 of the 10 of these pieces right here, but if you're hanging out with a group of people who say, like you said earlier, that doesn't work, that stuff doesn't work. Now you might believe this, and maybe you go to bed and you read it every single night, but all the people you hang around with are just poop on the whole idea. It's just not going to work. You need to have all these components. You need all these things working with you.
Absolutely. Okay, let's travel on. We ready to travel on?
Let's move on.
Moving on. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time. Look, do you have a job? If you have a job, you're making somebody else's dream come true. It's that simple. You're trading time for money. You're never going to get rich trading time for money. And again, this is coming from me personally now. I'm going off of the T. Harbecker and material for the moment, although T. Harbecker says the same thing, and so does Jack Canfield. When I was younger, what we were taught was grow up, get an education, get a job, be something important. I remember my grandmother telling me, be something important, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer. I don't know. Do you know any out-of-work engineers? I know a few. I think I even know a few out-of-work lawyers and doctors. The point is, the world has changed, and it is continuing to change. And the old idea of getting a job, working for 40 years, and retiring with a pension is gone. It doesn't exist. 50% of the workforce in America does not have a pension. And the 50% that do don't have a pension that's going to see them through retirement, because the pensions haven't grown. They have gone down in size, while the life expectancy has gone up. So we talked about this in a couple webinars ago. What is your life expectancy? We're approaching 100 years. The retirement age used to be 65. Now it's not. It certainly isn't 65 for most people. It's 67 or older. And let's pretend that it's 67. Well, let's pretend that it's 70. If the life expectancy is 100, That leaves you 30 years to live off the retirement you've saved. The average in America is less than $60,000. Um, Gee, I don't know what kind of arithmetic you do, but in my arithmetic, $60,000 ain't going to get you through 30 years. And so, yeah, well, you could always go become a greeter in Walmart, but do you have a dream? That's the question. Have you created your vision for yourself? And are you beginning to put together a plan for yourself that will get you to where you want to go? Because you got to get away from the getting paid for your time mentality if you want to succeed. It's that simple. Moving on. Rich people think both. Poor people think either or. Rich people think both is the mentality of there's enough for everybody to go around. Poor people thinking either or is the mentality of scarcity. Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? So, if your attitude is, well, we can do A or we can do B, but we can't do both, that's scarcity thinking. And while it may be true today, maybe that's part of your cash flow plan, etc. But I'm going to encourage you to ask empowering questions. Why can't I do both A and B? I'm going to encourage you to create new affirmations or afformations for yourself. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have both A and B. Rich people don't limit themselves. They believe that they live in a world that is plentiful, that is resourceful, that has everything that everyone needs. Poor people live in a world of scarcity. It's once again, it's a thought. It's part of the thought process. Is that glass half empty or is it half full? Are we going to go out on San Francisco Bay and have a good time in the sailboat, or is the wind going to blow and the waves going to be rough? Very early in the program, one of the first webinars we did, we talked about net worth. Poor people focus on working income. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on whether they have enough money to pay the bills next week. One of the reasons we want you to work on your financial freedom account is that that's the attitude that it takes to create any kind of wealth in your life. If you don't have a financial freedom account, if you spend every penny that comes through the front door, you will never achieve the kind of success you're looking for. What is your net worth? If it's like many people, it might even be a negative number. You might have more bills than you have assets, more liabilities than you have assets. If you do, time to start working on that. Time to start working on that financial freedom account. Okay, moving on. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well. Same comments that I made on the previous slide. You might say, Len, you don't understand. I've got kids in college. I have a wife that spends too much. Whatever the reasons are, I don't want to go down the litany of reasons that everyone has their reasons. But when you let yourself talk about your reasons that you haven't achieved what you want to achieve, when you continue to validate where you are, you'll get to own where you are. You'll get to stay where you are. If you want to grow, then you have to take responsibility and you have to begin to do a better job of managing your money. And that might mean making some sacrifices now so that you can begin to build the future that you want for yourself, your kids, and your family. And that's not always necessarily easy to do. I'm not saying that's easy. And each and every one of us has our own challenges. But the reality is, if you don't start now, when? When will you start? Even if it's only a penny a day, start now. Build the muscle, build the habit. Get your money working for you. Rich people have their money work hard for them. Poor people work hard for their money. Build up that financial freedom account and start to invest it. now. Now, even if it's only a little bit, you're moving yourself in the right direction. You're you're gradually changing your thought processes, your habits, and your mindset. And that's what this is all about. That's what this 90 days is all about. It's about changing our habits, changing our mindset, changing our beliefs. Most millionaires didn't become millionaires in 90 days. And most of us who have screwed up thought processes from our childhood took many years to build those negative thoughts. It may take several years to unbuild the negative thoughts. But the habits that we're trying to develop in this 90-day program are the things that will take you in the right direction. I hope you're on board, and I hope you're doing the things that you need to be doing. We're getting close to the end. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them. We all have our fears, our doubts, our uncertainties, and we have a choice. We can face our fears and do it anyhow. And by the way, if you do have fears that are stopping you from acting, that's another book that I can recommend. Face the Fear and Do It Anyhow. It's a good book. We all have our fears. But if you want to grow, if you want to get to where you want to get to in your life, your choice is to ignore the fears, to face them, to accept them, to acknowledge them, and act anyhow. Move in the direction of your dreams. Remember the quote from Henry Thoreau. Basically, the world steps aside for someone who's moving in the direction of their dreams. All manner of things come to play to help someone who is moving forcefully and directly in the direction of their dreams. So successful people acknowledge their fears and they act in spite of them. Aha, there's my spelling mistake. I told you, no matter how many times I go through these things, I always find a spelling mistake in the end. In act in spite of. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know it all. This, my friends, is one of the most critically important statements that I can make to you tonight. You know, I actually didn't have a biological father. Well, I did have a biological father. It's just that I never knew him. I met him when I was 23. But I was raised by, my mother remarried, and there was a man in the house that lived with us. And he and I never really developed much of a relationship, but there were two things that were characteristic about him that I will tell you. One is that he told me repeatedly that he'd read every book there was. He'd gone to the library and read all the books there were to read when he was in high school. So there were no books for him to read. And he also told me that when he was in the military, he traveled and saw the whole world. So there was no place for him to go see. Now, would you consider that person alive? I don't think so. Here's the problem. The minute you say you know that, you're in trouble. You're either growing or dying. There's nothing in between. If a lake quits moving, it turns green, it eutrophies, and it rots, and it dies. If a river quits flowing, it does the same thing. If you think you know it, you're in trouble. The minute you hear your mind say, I know that, you're in trouble. So if you read Think and Grow Rich a year ago and you think you know it, go read it again. I promise you there are things in that book that weren't there a year ago when you read it the first time. I promise you. I highly recommend you pick up T. Harbecker's book, The Millionaire Mind. This is where all this stuff, much of this stuff comes from. It's the origin of the sayings at the tops of these slides. If you read it a year ago and you think you know it, go back and read it again. You're going to find some new material that you didn't see the first time. And every time you read it, you're going to find some new things. Go read Think and Grow Rich again. I don't care how many times you read it. I've read it 3 times. Every time I read it, Napoleon Hill has some new stuff that he snuck in there. He might have been dead for a few years, but he keeps sneaking in new stuff. That's the end of the slides. Woohoo! Ellen, we're on. Chris, Rick, good evening, my friends. Good evening. We started without you. You all got here a little late, but that's okay. So what's going on in the comments? Ellen, you're not doing real well, are you? I'm so sorry, Ellen. What can we do to help? Is there anything we can do for you? And Chris, thank you for reaching out to Ellen. She's a marvelous person who's having some issues now in her life. So what's he read every day for 50 years? Chris, you want to come over and talk to us? I'm waiting to see if you answered me, Chris. Are you ignoring me? Think and Grow Rich, yeah. I
know that stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Did somebody drop off? Who dropped off? No, I guess it is us. Sure. All right. Come on over. Shoot. There you are.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? How much of this did you catch? Were you on right early on at the beginning?
I was in about 8 minutes after.
Okay.
So I didn't miss a whole lot.
Cool. What do you think?
It was good. Bob Proctor did. He was at the Eric Worre thing, and he actually had his book with him of Think and Grow Rich, all tattered and dog-eared, but he said every day for 50 years he has read something in that book over and over again.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Hey, Rick, I just wanted to say hi to you.
Hello. How you guys
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
And
Hi.
Ellen, you're absolutely welcome to come over. I don't know if you've ever done that or not, or know how to do it. I'm not leaving you out, but I know you don't feel well, so I'm leaving you. Let me know in the chat if you want to just join us for a couple minutes. We're not going to be here much longer, but it's your call. What you think, Rick? Was that a worthwhile presentation tonight?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I because you guys are on Pacific time, I keep forgetting the 2-hour delay. For some reason, I thought this was on at 8 o'clock, so I was in the Wealth Builders area, and then I discovered, so I missed about the first 20 minutes of it. So.
Okay. Well, yeah. I hope there's some value. This all comes from mostly comes from T. Harv Eker, and many times I've gone through that book, but my book is now pretty much yellow from cover to cover because I've marked it up so many times.
I noticed that you referenced the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and that's probably one of the first books I read, probably 10 years ago. So that's a good book.
That's another one. That's really worth going through more than once.
Yeah. Well, what you realize is when you grow throughout the years, those books have a different meaning when you reread them. So they're always a new book. So every 2 or 3 years, you want to reread the core books over again because you're a different person at the time you're reading them, so you get different value out of them.
That's exactly right. And what I find is things that I didn't even understand a couple of years ago. Now I read the passage and it's like, oh wow, that's profound.
Well, maybe Rick is right. Maybe Napoleon Hill isn't coming back and reading more stuff. Maybe it's just you're perceiving it differently.
I think Napoleon Hill comes back and writes new stuff and slips it in there. So anyhow.
They both work.
Okay, folks. Well, I'm willing to sit here and keep chatting, but if we, I know there's 3 more webinars tonight at 6 o'clock. Justice has a webinar tonight. Terry Grimal has one, and the Deep Abyss is on tonight. So, if people have other things to go do. Actually, Bob and I are going to go eat pizza. So we're not gonna be on the Deep Abyss tonight. You're welcome, Ellen. Ellen, let me know you're filling up the chat, and we'll chat. And take up Chris's offer. Let Chris be your friend. Chris is a great woman. Yeah, I love pizza. All right, you folks ready to call it a night?
Okay, thank you. It was good to be here.
Chris,
Yes.
are you ready to call it a night?
Sure.
Cool. All right. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Rick, Chris is interviewing Clive tomorrow morning on the hell's the name of it, Chris?
Coaching.
Freedom coaching.
Freedom coaching. That ought to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard earlier.
Bob and I are gonna get an early start tomorrow morning, Chris, so we can get back in time.
Okay, cool.
We'll see you in the morning. I will be on. I may be a few minutes late, but I'll be on.
Okay.
All right.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Here we go.